System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city left.
This is the Inner City Left broadcast. Today is Tuesday, December 9th. I am Amin TMK alongside Amoja, Lil Tanky Sumler. Amoja, hello. Happy Tuesday. It's going up on a Tuesday. I'm a Conan reference. How are you doing this Tuesday?
Man, getting it.
Let's get it. We don't talk that much about the continent of Africa, and we should talk about it more because a lot of things is going on, especially the last few weeks in Benin. There has been a coup attempt, a lot of differing opinions on that. I have something I want to show our watchers and I guess, our listeners, for those who are on the podcast. This right here is this right here is George Galloway. You guys may have seen us show him. He is he's a member of parliament or something like that. I know he was
he's a member of the British Parliament.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and
British
he's
Parliament.
been a commentator for a while. So he was speaking on this. This is via Typical African on Twitter. I'll go ahead and play this, and we'll see if we can get your thoughts if you agree.
Bombing the army of Benin in their military base. They say that their coup that was mounted overnight and was revealed to the world this morning by a group of junior officers is over. It's finished, except we haven't been allowed to see their puppet president if he's safe and still in control, and the leader of the junior officers is broadcasting constantly on YouTube. And if it's over, why are the French still bombing it? Even worse, Macron phoned his boyfriend, Tinubu, the former drug dealer in the United States, now the octogenarian stooge of France in Nigeria, and told him to start bombing his neighbor too. And he did it. More than that, he's mobilizing the Nigerian army to invade his neighbor, Benin.
So that's it right there. You can watch more, obviously, on his channel. Let me get your take on that. What do we agree with? What are your take, and what's happening?
This is one of the things, right, when you're dealing in liberal spaces and we're talking about geopolitics, and they're always like, how can you advocate for Russia? Which, first off, I don't. I just tell the geopolitical truth as I see it, right? Look at what they're doing to Africa. You know what I don't see right now? The Russians bombing African countries, right? I do see the French, and I see the Nigerians, right? And this is the same Nigeria, right? This is the same Nigeria that is under threat of potential military conflict from the United States. We just had Nicki Minaj at the United Nations talking about, oh, look at what they doing to Christians in Nigeria, which is openly threatening by Donald J. Trump to invade this place to restore the rights of the Christians. So this is the same government that still bends over, kowtows to the West, and invades their neighbor, because let's be honest, if Russia had done this to any country, right, it would be called an invasion. But because the Nigerians are acting on the behalf of the Western world, right, acting on behalf of the French government, which has no real reason to be involved in the geopolitics that are happening in Africa at all. And yet, here we are. You know what I'm saying? Once again, I just remember how much the French government protested, right, when Black Panther 2 came out. Like, what they're trying to portray us in a way that's not real. This is not our relationship with Africa. But every other year, it's some African government kicking the French out, telling them to get the fuck out, move your army. We want our minds back. Right. And we have, once again, an organic coup that is happening, that is being stopped by the French to keep a French puppet in power, to allow their resources to be extracted, and for Africa to not be allowed to develop the way it should. All while white supremacists are like, look at Africa. Why can't they get it together?
Yeah. No, well said, well said. Okay, there's some more. Let's because it continues. I want to read this for everyone out there. This is from Liberation_Black. This is from the president of Nigeria, and she is quoting it, quote tweeting it. The president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was already mentioned in the George Galloway video, earlier today on my orders, the Nigerian armed forces stood gallantly as a defender and protector of constitutional order in the Republic of Benin on the invitation of the government. So this is from Liberation_Black. Nigeria is once again being positioned as regional neocolonial enforcer, ensuring Benin stays locked into the CFA franc, ECOWAS, and plus Western security interests. A Benin realignment with AES means Sahel bloc has direct Atlantic corridor, something France and the EU cannot allow. There's another thing I want to show you, and I think you're going to like this. Because, boom, it's a map. It's a map just for you. So I want you to take a look right here. I don't have a Madden like Telestrator, and I'm sorry for our podcast listeners, but this is a map of West Africa. Now let's see. Yeah, no. Go ahead, break it down.
So again, the two nations that were having their coups in the last week in Africa are Guinea-Bissau, which you can see all the way to the west, connects directly to the Atlantic Ocean. And if you look right next to Nigeria, between Nigeria and Ghana, you can see Benin. Now, again, what they're trying desperately to do is to be able to keep the Sahel states, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali, which are coming together to work more and more, to the betterment of their people who have already kicked the French out, right? This is literally what they're saying. They're still landlocked. This is the very thing they're terrified of happening to Ukraine, that the Russians will come in and take Odessa and make it so that, because they understand in this world of commerce, the easiest and best way to move goods is on the ocean. And so the threat of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger coming together to unite to create this new Africa, right, that is not beholden to the West is greatly diminished, so long as your only routes for moving whatever your products are through the fucking Saharan desert. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's no way to move goods. And so, none of this is accidental, right? None of this is accidental, and it just continues to happen, And I'll tell you who the hidden hand in all this is, who hasn't even been mentioned, is AFRICOM. They didn't even need to move. AFRICOM probably told France, deal with it. The French told the Nigerians, deal with it. And here we are.
Yeah. And again, we already know that there are, I forget the general's name, but remember, he had sort of a back and forth with Ibrahim Traore, talking about he was stealing the wealth and stuff. I don't remember his name, but we had spoken about him before, and I think you're right. There are so many spaces right here. We talked about Guinea-Bissau. That is that situation is ongoing. The situation is fluid. A lot of information out there, and even right now in Benin, we can't say for sure exactly what is happening. This is sort of the fog and cloud of war, or in this place
they're trying to bait the Sahel into battle is what the bigger play looks like. They want to bait those nations into a defense of Benin so that Nigeria can then be unleashed on the Sahel states. Nigeria, for all of its corruption, is flush with petrodollars, right? And pretty good relations with the West, despite what you would be told to think. You know what I'm saying?
And we know Boko Haram and ISIS, again, those are part of the Alphabet Boy groups. Right. So they are alive and well here in West Africa, and also Senegal, another place where there's a lot of, strife. And a lot of these countries, Liberia is a colony of America. It was supposed to be for, the enslaved Black people, freed to go to. That place has been experiencing civil wars for 100+ years. And the president was a soccer player whose son plays for the American soccer team. So that's to let you know how incredibly captured a place like Liberia is. There's, again, like you said, Benin. And I think, obviously the United States is wanting to play this into their role, but I think the people are seeing what the Sahel has done. They're looking at people like Ibrahim Traore and they're asking, I've seen what you've done for Niger and I want that for me. That is sort of, again, I think when people ask us like, oh, America's not doing well or America's losing their grip or whatever it is, these are ways you can see the West losing its grip. And look, they're trying to get it back. But I think the victories of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are kind of a rallying cry to a lot of West Africa who I think are absolutely tired of European and Western rule. Those are my thoughts on that. I wanted to go ahead if you had another point, but I wanted to show one more thing. If you don't have a point, I'll just go ahead.
No, go for it.
This guy, you might know him. His name is Bill Gates.
Oh, God.
Okay. And this is something that I think most people who are on the left, or it doesn't even have to be the left, I think you can see that when someone as powerful as Bill Gates, who is really supposed to be, in software and kind of in the lane of Microsoft, it's kind of disappeared from that, and it kind of feels like he's been a part of a more nefarious undertakings. And I wanted to play this for our listeners. This was, I guess, him in Doha. We go back and forth on Doha and sort of their connection to the Western world, and whose side they really are, or whose side the leadership is really on. So this is Bill Gates in Doha talking about Africa.
Them an AI that's giving them advice, giving them understanding about their soils and how to improve those soils, giving them new seeds, giving them new livestock. That the opportunity for that sector is to more than overcome those headwinds and turn this into the primary area of economic growth and make Africa not only self-sufficient to help solve some of the malnutrition problems, but also a significant net food exporter. And we start where an average farm in Africa is per hectare has about 20% the output of a rich world farm, and that shouldn't be the case. And this AI advisor that will understand weather and prices and seed varieties and diseases.
Just your thoughts on that.
I mean, wow. First off, the cultural hubris of an American going into Africa and telling Africans, this is what you need to do with your soil. I mean, bruh, right? Like this is what we talk about when we mean like white supremacy, right? It doesn't require you to have a Klan hood on and, be part of the Proud Boys. It just requires you to think that, even without any of their best efforts, those poor Africans, you know what I'm saying? It's like there's a reason why Africa underproduces, and it is the instability that has been forced upon it for hundreds of years by the West. That's the single only reason, right? And when the Chinese talk about going into Africa, they don't talk to them like this. When the Russians talk about going to Africa, they don't talk to them like this. Like, also, let's look at that just on Bill Gates, one of the wealthiest men in the world, is talking about for free. You're going to give this AI system for free? Like, we supposed to believe that, right? This man is one of the leading people, okay, in genetically modified seeds, right? And it's like, you don't have to be conspiracy theory about these things. You just have to look at what they do. Like, what are the gene patents that they have? For example, why are there things like gene limiters, which tell a seed how many times it can be fertile, right? Like, why would one build in such a thing? Like, famines are designed, and that sounds like a radical statement, but it's just the absolute truth. They're designed because the seed makers need you to keep buying their seed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that is just the bottom line. There's no money in selling you seeds that keep making wheat for hundreds of years. Oh, and I can save some of these seeds. I can sell some of the seed and make wheat and flour and all of the things that you make out of wheat, but I'll save some and I'll plant them for next year and be self-sufficient. Like Big Agro has no interest in that. And Bill Gates has been as guilty as anyone. Like people don't even think about him as a big agro guy, but this Bill Gates farms, right, own more of Arkansas than any other company in the world, more than any other person. You wouldn't even think about that. Like Bill Gates' investment in farmland is vast.
He's a top 5 private owner of land in the country.
Right? And so like I saw this when I lived in Arkansas for years, his genetically modified soy products. You know what I'm saying? And if they make modifications to the limitation as to how long the seed can be fertile, it just makes you wonder what other modifications you're making, right? Was that for the betterment of humankind, right? A gene limiter, right? It's definitely not. So like you already have these indications that he will prioritize profit. Everything in his life has shown you he prioritized profit over people. There are no ethical billionaires, right?
I just want to mention this real quick, and I'm gonna let you go on that because you were talking about the gene limiters on the seeds, and you know that Roundup has been a big part of the conversation from Monsanto, and again, all of these are connected, and those reports.
Excuse me, you mean the Bayer company?
Right, and the corporations continue to get larger and larger and eat up all the other organizations. That's how you get sort of the too big to fail. But they've basically 25 years ago, the whole thing with the Roundup was it didn't cause any negative effects, and we know now that glyphosate and the forever chemicals are in our bodies and they can't go away, and our children are born with them on top of the plastics and all that other stuff. I just wanted to jump in and say that, because I thought that was, such a huge part of the insidious nature of big agro, and Bill Gates is certainly a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's who Bill Gates is. Like Bill Gates is a guy who built his fortune, okay, because his mom worked at IBM. Okay, and he's able to pitch his little software to the boardroom because your mom is able to open that door, and he's played off like, oh, just a boy billionaire, brilliant, like way before Zelensky. Like he was the prototype for all that, just on his own wit and gumption. No, motherfucker, doors was open for you. You know what I'm saying? Like as is always the case with billionaires, So
Elon Musk and he got it out the mud.
A small loan.
Yeah. He got
our president. A small loan.
Yeah. Now he got it out the mud, and the mud is an emerald mine. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. Well, look, I mean, again, I think this is a developing story. It's important to acknowledge, the destabilization that has been occurring in Africa again, for instance, the inception of colonialization there. And, obviously, there is a lot to be said about the Western world destabilizing that. And, I think, again, Ibrahim Traore and the Sahel leaders who are now
making Africa profitable. And they didn't even need the super seeds from Bill Gates. They just needed to kick the French people out.
Man.
All of a sudden, the standard of living went up. Literacy went up. Per capita income went up.
They got electric cars, man.
Damn, they didn't even need Jack's magic beanstalk seeds. All you got to do is give us the rights to all of your uranium and all of your gold mines.
Right.
You want to eat? You want to feed your people? You greedy fuck.
Yeah, and like you said, and you mentioned this, and I just want to bring it back again. This is why in Burkina Faso, the Russians have no issue with any permits. They come right on in. They mine exactly what they've been looking for. They pay the fees, and there's no discussion. All the factories that China is building in Africa right now, they are having a much higher standard of safety practices and things of that nature. Again, I'm not saying there's not going to be issues. There is with any employer and employee, but they are not destabilizing countries so they can steal resources. They are building and working with the West Africans or whatever region of Africa that they're in, okay? And they are building partners and allyship with them in the way that you would think the United States would. But unfortunately, when all you do is destabilize our country and put puppet presidents in, you will not have that support from the people. And I think the militaries all in West Africa right now have to be thinking to themselves, can we kick the West out just like they did in Mali and Niger and Burkina Faso? Can we do that?
Algeria.
And, Algeria, another great point. I mean, and there's and look, and you mentioned South Africa. Obviously, that is still an internal conflict and struggle with white supremacy. In apartheid still really hasn't ended, although legally it may have. But those lingering, historical and economic issues are still permeating throughout South Africa.
You bring up South Africa, and this makes me laugh, right? Because we go back to the Bill Gates statement. If white people are so damn smart, 79% of the farmland belongs to white people in South Africa. So why aren't those African soils doing good, man? Bill Gates needs to look into it. What's happening in South Africa, man?
Yeah,
he needs to teach those guys about his magic beans, man. And change everything down there. But, again, when I think about what's going on with the Sahel states, I find it fascinating because Ukraine ties to all of these things. You know what I'm saying? When they're watching the Americans seem to waffle, when I say they, I mean NATO and all of the European colonial powers, right? They're watching the Americans waffle in Ukraine, and they're watching the Americans redirect their navies to Venezuela. And, there's a little kerfluffle going on with China and Japan. I'll circle right back to that. It makes them wonder, if war happens in Africa, will we have to go alone? Or worse, will we have to go against Sahel states backed by Chinese tech, backed by Russian tech with no American support? You see what I'm saying? It's not the 90s anymore where they can count on the American military to be there with them in their misadventures, the way that they're always there with the United States. We were there for you when we went into Iraq. The Americans are not like that. They're not reciprocal like that. They go on their adventures and they expect you to come with them. And if it helps them, they will help you on yours. It served America's interest to help them topple Gaddafi in Libya. And they knew they could get in and get out and destabilize it to the point whereas it wouldn't be that much of an effort, right? But taking on these Sahel states that are ruled right now and led by military men, you know what I'm saying, that don't really seem to be interested in the things that their fathers were interested in, aka lots of offshore accounts in the Caymans and land in Paris and, you know what I'm saying, bank accounts in France. These men don't seem to be interested in those things. They seem to be interested in the people, and they don't know how to deal with that. They normally used to just kill them, like Patrice Lumumba. But again, that was with the help of the Americans, and the Americans are otherwise occupied right now. I don't know if France has the ability to make much of an impact for anything that's going to be sustained in more than a surgical way. And the bottom line is Macron's approval ratings are so low. If he takes any type of black eye on any of this, he's out of power. So he knows even his options are very limited.
France is tenuous in itself.
Yeah, I mean,
did he lose an election? I mean, approval rating looking like Keir Starmer.
13, bro.
Yeah,
his approval rating is not old enough to vote, man.
Man, it's going through puberty right now.
I mean, so if the French get involved in some big conflict and they start taking French losses, his political career will not survive.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that France won't still be invested in maintaining these coups. Because those people, I mean, that is the lifeblood to the French Empire right now. What they can steal and siphon off of West Africa. Their gold is coming from there. Their cheap uranium, which is how France was for so long able to move past the sanctions on Russian oil, right? France had a lot of nuclear, very powerful nuclear industry. And they're getting cheap uranium, from the Sahel, places like Niger, but that's gone now. So they can't lose. They can't take any more L's. Their economy is tenuous as it is. It's life or death for them. It's not about justice. It's not like that. That's one thing we really hope the people who watch our show understand. None of this is about simple terms like good or evil, right or wrong. It's about power and maintaining power. That's geopolitics.
Yeah.
It's not moral. It's not a moral issue.
You're being silly if you don't want to acknowledge it. I wish it wasn't like this. I wish it wasn't about force and about wars and about, ask North Korea. I mean, yeah, it's unfortunate. Let's give a shout out to our podcast listeners. We're available everywhere you find podcasts, Apple Podcasts, iHeart, Spotify, all that. I don't want to say good stuff. It's not good, It's actually pretty evil. But what are we supposed to do? We're on the YT here. So that's got its own issues. That's by Google and the Alphabet Group. So what can you do? We're doing our best. No ethical consumption and late stage capitalism. But you can hit us up on our Patreon, patreon.com/InnerCityLeft. Got a community going on over there. Fables, Foibles, Other American Sins in the description. Amoja's book of poetry. We also do music because we're artists. I mean, TMK, Lil Tanky, anywhere you find music. There's so many things always to talk about. And, maybe one day we'll be doing videos every single day. But anything we missed, anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I promised to circle back to it, so I'll just be really brief. Japanese jet fighter got painted by a Chinese jet fighter over international waters. It seems like not that big of a deal until you remember painting a fighter jet is the last thing you do before you weapons free. So Japanese fighters came too close to a Chinese aircraft carrier in the open waters. I mean, you have to assume as an aircraft carrier, you're either there to make an attack or you're there to spy. And when you can do something about it, you do. And the Chinese did. They scrambled fighters and painted the jet. The Japanese jet threw its transponders back on and went back to Japanese airspace. And that was the end of it. Japanese been bitching about it. But again, that just goes to show you how tenuous this thing is right now, how on edge China and Japan are since Takaichi when it made that fucking stupid comment about Taiwan, which she has since retracted, by the way. She was mad as hell. She did not want to. But, man, she got called out by pretty much, all of the opposition and the Japanese, what do you call the
like their parliament or whatever.
The parliament, the Japanese parliament, right? And conceivably, probably Donald Trump in her ear, like, hey, now is not the fucking time. Okay, my economy is already shot. And if you go to war with Japan, with China, that's bad for us. Because again, geopolitics, they don't care about what's right and wrong.
Yeah. It's bad for us.
It's bad for us. So pipe the fuck down.
And it's bad for us for at least one more year.
Yeah.
Y'all want to do this stuff next year? Maybe we can have a conversation. But right now, we need them rare earth minerals. We need the rare earths. So don't get too turned up. Once we get the rare earths next year, we'll have a conversation and we'll see what can happen.
So keep your eyes on that situation.
I'm sure we'll try to talk about it again before the end of the week and give you some more updates. And updates on all this stuff because it's all a tinderbox. Russia, Ukraine, obviously the domestic situation in the United States is deteriorating. The economy of America is deteriorating. And all we can do is, hey, we just say the news. Ron Burgundy, I'm here to report the news.
Yeah, it is.
But I appreciate you, man. I appreciate the work that we're doing. And I know that, people out there are tuning in and they know something something big is going to happen and something bad is going to happen, and big and bad things have been happening. But anyway, that is what we have for today for Amoja Lil Tanky Summer. I am Amin TMK. This is the Inner City Love Broadcast. Peace.
System riding to the core. Yeah. Reppin' inner city love.